A special college football playoff ranking reveal edition of Andy and Ari On3 presented by Wendy's. We just go to the invisible redneck in the chat who says the CFP show is stupid. Not this show, the main show. That's right. We're the non-stupid show. Hi, Ari.
Don't go to the monitors.
But do go to the correct microphone. Yes, that was me screaming at my television when there was a shot clock violation. And the officials in the basketball game were like, no, let's take a look at the monitor and figure out if the ball hit the rim. No, it's a 10-point game. Just let it run. Let's go. We're now ready.
0 days since Ari's latest mic issue. Thank you for helping me out here. But I'm happy to be here. Andy, we were saying before the show during the college basketball game that everybody wanted to finish that tonight could go off the rails. Do you think tonight can go off the rails?
I do. I'll tell you what I'm very interested in. We had a conversation on the show this morning about South Carolina. We had some South Carolina fans in the chat, and they were asking, okay, what does South Carolina need to get in? And I said, the problem for South Carolina is that they are kind of blocked, feels like, by Ole Miss and Alabama, who they lost to head-to-head, who also have 3 losses. Now, this assumes that South Carolina win against Clemson. I don't know if it assumes Texas A&M winning the SEC, which is possible, and South Carolina has a win against Texas A&M, so that would be great for South Carolina, but then not, because Texas A&M would be your classic bid thief. Because like we see in basketball where you have the conference tournament champion that wasn't going to be an at-large that gets the automatic bid, and that takes away an at-large spot. So what I want to see, Ari, it's not necessarily who's in the 1 through 12, because I think that those teams are feeling pretty good. It's where did Alabama and Ole Miss fall to? Where are they in relation to South Carolina? Because I'm assuming it's the head-to-head that would block them, but I realize I shouldn't be making any assumptions.
They got to you, man. They were not taking no for an answer, and here you are.
They were after Andy, us all day on Twitter.
What could I eat or shove up my rectum if they make it? Like, I don't know, like what they're not making the playoffs.
We don't need to get into that. I think that trend has died, and let's let it rest in peace. Look at all those people in the committee room. They look really bored.
The question I have for you as we're waiting for them to say whatever they're saying is, do you think there will be anybody in the top 12 tonight that did not appear in either of our top 12s, Bubble Watch and Bracketology on the weekend?
I don't know who it would be, because we both had SMU. Like, do you think SMU's not in? Because we both had SMU in spots where they get in at large.
Well, the thing is if SMU is not in, you have a grab ass team in front of it. Like, there's no, like, when the thing that I discovered when I was doing Bubble Watch is that once you filled out the field, there were no other viable candidates from our understanding left. So, like, that's the thing. It's like, if somebody's in the top 12 that isn't SMU, then who the hell is it? Like, I would anticipate that the answer is no, but I am very curious too, because I had a friend of mine texting me today that he is like certain that Alabama would get taken over SMU if SMU loses the ACC championship game. And he was certain, and it's just a buddy of mine talking, but certain that Alabama would be taken over Ole Miss too. And I just thought that was a very strange thought process. But then when you started to hear the rationale, which is, Alabama laid an egg on Saturday, there's no question about it, but Alabama and Ole Miss both hold wins over Georgia, and Alabama didn't get blown off the field by the LSU team that blew Ole Miss off the field. So I wonder if
LSU didn't blow Ole Miss off the field. They beat Ole Miss in overtime. Alabama did, however, get blown off the field by Oklahoma, an Oklahoma team that Ole Miss did blow off the field.
Yeah, but I think that if you cancel out the Georgia games.
All right, we got rankings. They're not wasting time because they got another basketball game.
They got to go to the rankings.
They got a Duke Kansas game to get to. Colorado number 25, Kansas State number 24. So nobody that's going to affect our bubble teams. Okay. And then, if Penn State took a second loss, that would maybe matter. Yeah, I don't think Penn State's going to lose to Maryland, though.
Firmly in now that doesn't even matter. My Rebels, baby. My Rebels.
UNLV, but UNLV is just sitting there going, all right, let's beat Nevada. Let's go play Boise on the blue and see how this goes. Because that first UNLV Boise State game was really good. It was a 5-point game. It was really the first one Ashton Genty wasn't completely superhuman. Missouri 21, they're up 2. Like, they're going to buoy some schedules here. So good for South Carolina and Texas A&M there. There's Texas A&M dropping 5 after losing to Auburn. Texas A&M, they're a win and in situation. They got to beat Texas, and then they got to win the SEC championship game. That is how they get in. I don't think there's any other way.
BYU is 19th.
Okay.
This is exciting. I love this stuff.
So, well, the other thing I was interested in is where are the Big 12 contenders relative to Boise State? Because I've said if Boise State keeps winning, they'll be ranked ahead of the Big 12 champ. You say no, the Big 12 champ will jump them. The committee will just find a reason to jump them.
So they're pretty far behind right now.
Yep. Because Boise State's been at 12.
Wow, that's interesting for Tulane.
BYU, Iowa State, Arizona State's the only other one.
Does the Tulane thing here make you think twice about the Mountain West champion if UNLV beats Boise?
No, because Tulane lost to Kansas State and Oklahoma.
No, I know, but they're ahead of UNLV. So if both of them went out, would the American be taken over UNLV?
UNLV won out, maybe not. But if
that's what I'm
Boise
saying,
State was out, there's Arizona State 16. So I'm telling you, Ari, if Boise State goes 12-1, they're your 4 seed.
South Carolina's behind Ole Miss and Alabama still.
Okay. There's your answer on that one. Now, they do have a game against Clemson where they can look good.
So I might
bump up.
With the Tulane thing, I think I might have made a mistake by putting UNLV in my field on Sunday.
Maybe. Yeah, because Tulane, if they beat Army in the American Championship, could conceivably be in over a Mountain West champion UNLV. We had an interesting question.
Ole Miss is 14, Andy, which means that Alabama's ahead of Ole Miss.
So they're right all clustered together. But South Carolina has the tougher game of the remaining game for the 3 teams.
Andy,
so if South
Alabama
Carolina can beat Clemson
so in this thing.
Clemson's ranked above all of them, right?
Yeah. Alabama is just sitting right there waiting to. I'm so happy I didn't leave them off.
Is this a tiger paw or is this an A?
It's an A.
Okay. Which means the tiger paw is coming 13. Up. Which means what if Clemson beats South Carolina? Are they in line for an at-large?
Oh my God. Possibly.
Because that seems a little odd.
Well, the thing that's interesting is that there is
Georgia and Clemson getting crushed by Georgia.
There is a debate still of whether or not we feel comfortable that the ACC championship loser would get in. I can't imagine that Clemson would get in if the ACC championship game loser doesn't. So I think the only circumstance that Clemson gets in is if they're the second ACC team, right?
They can't have it above these guys. You're going to have
think there's a world where there's going to be 3 ACC teams in the top 12 at the end of the year?
If Clemson beats South Carolina, you're going to have to come up with a reason for Alabama or Ole Miss to jump them. So Clemson's on the doorstep there.
Dabo.
Now they're not in at 12 because remember, all of the Big 12 teams are ranked below. So the Big 12 champ would Wally Pip them.
I'm just trying to figure out the math on the. We're one upset away from somebody bowing out here. Like if Miami were to lose,
but
I guess that
Ari,
would clear
South Carolina beating number 12 Clemson, because Clemson's only going to drop to like 16 if South Carolina beats them. Does that allow South Carolina to vault up there? I'm telling you, you may be an Iron Bowl loss away from a Clemson or South Carolina winner going to the playoff.
Okay, so Boise's 11.
Okay. So they would be in anyway. Now, obviously, they need to keep winning because if they lost, they would just drop. So I think that's... Now, somebody in the chat asked a really interesting question before we started. And they were referencing Florida State last year and what happened to Jordan Travis. And it was... What happens? So here it is. Sloth Whisperer 81. Boise wins out, but Genty suffers an injury. Hopefully not. Obviously, nobody wishes injury on anybody. But would the committee treat them as they treated Florida State last year?
Well, does Tulane win the American with Their only 2 losses being out of state or out of conference. I mean,
Potentially. I think that's okay. Indiana dropped to 10, so now we know where they are. Hanging in. They're one spot in
SMU
terms of
jumped
at large.
Indiana.
Okay. 2-bit ACC looking pretty good if SMU and Miami win this
You've
weekend.
got me in a pretzel with 3-bit ACC though, Andy. I'm in a pretzel.
The Clemson thing's crazy because you got to, if they beat South Carolina, which is going to be a good win, I think ultimately the committee would jump them with Alabama or Ole Miss, but they got to make up a reason to do it because they got them ahead of them now.
Yeah. Tennessee moves up to 8.
All right.
River got that one up there pretty quickly. I think he was ready to put that up.
Yeah, he's been moving fast on the old balls. So we think 7 is going to be Georgia?
I would anticipate it being Georgia.
Yeah, the Big Ten is going to dominate the top 5.
Yeah, Georgia.
I would say that. Yeah, you're a little ahead of me, Ari. There's Georgia. Okay. And Georgia can go up by winning the SEC championship or go down by losing it, but I don't think they fall out of the field. Texas is, remember, up there too. Texas is your highest ranked SEC team. They just have to beat Texas A&M to stay there. And if Texas beats Texas A&M, then both teams in the SEC championship game get in, which we assumed all season, but now is not a safe assumption.
I'm like pondering right now whether I'm writing Miami 6, whether I'm writing after we're done here that the Clemson South Carolina game is a play-in game potentially for the playoff.
It is, unless the committee just decides to retcon a new reason to leave the winner out.
That's just crap. That would just be crap.
Well, they should have thought about that before they ranked him this way.
But I'm saying, like, that's why I'm saying them ranking them this way has to mean they feel that way, right?
Yeah. They feel that way today. Doesn't mean they're going to feel that way next week or the week after.
Unless South Carolina wins and they don't think that's a good enough win to jump them. But I don't see how
it is. I mean, if you think Clemson's number 12 and South Carolina beats them, then they probably should move up, right?
Yeah.
Or do you just move everybody up?
Yeah.
There's Notre Dame at 5. So Notre Dame's hosting a game.
Yeah, it's going to be Notre Dame and Indiana in the first round, and it's going to be kind of funny.
State championship game, baby. You got to love it. The Hoosier Bowl.
Okay, so then it should be Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, right?
That's what it should be, yeah. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, Penn State's 4, so that means 3, 2, 1 will be Texas, Ohio State, and Oregon.
All right. So there you have it. We have the top 25. The question now really is in that 12 through 15 cluster where you've got Clemson, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina. Did I get that the right order? Is that the order? That's the order they have it in, right?
Yep. First team out right now is Clemson. Second team out is Bama.
Right. And then you have Ole Miss and South Carolina right there. South Carolina and Clemson play on Saturday. It's at Clemson. Clemson is a 2.5-point favorite, or what was a 2.5-point favorite when we picked the game. That's one I feel like everybody's been saying that's one South Carolina is going to win.
Man. That SEC cluster is such a diabolical situation. Like there is no winning that. Like I think that we're all on board to be like, yeah, go South Carolina, but like it would make zero sense if they ended up going.
But what if Clemson beats South Carolina? You're going to put them in over Alabama and Ole Miss?
I think if Clemson beats South Carolina, does Clemson just block out the SEC's remaining cluster at that point? Well,
what you're going to get, the argument, I can tell you right now, Greg Sankey's going to be on TV all week next week going, Alabama and Ole Miss both beat Georgia and Clemson got destroyed by Georgia. What are we even doing here? That is what Greg Sankey will say. And then Jim Phillips, who I praised last week for understanding the assignment, is going to understand the assignment, and he's going to politic for Clemson. Now, here's the compromise. You ready for the compromise that nobody's going to like? ACC title game loser falls out. Clemson and then one of those SEC teams gets in.
I know, but then if you take one of those SEC teams, you're going to have two that got screwed. It makes no sense.
Somebody's getting screwed no matter what, Ari, unless, well, we say that. We assumed that Alabama would beat Oklahoma last week, and Alabama lost by 3 touchdowns to Oklahoma. So there's no reason that we should assume that Alabama will win the Iron Bowl, that Ole Miss will win the Egg Bowl. I think South Carolina Clemson is a contentious game. There's nobody assuming a winner in either direction on that one.
You know whose resume I've spent 0 time reading because I haven't thought about them at all is Clemson. So let's look at it real quick. Clemson's strength of record is 18th. They are number 14 in FPI. Their strength of schedule is 57. The remaining schedule is 26 because they play South Carolina, and their game control is 12.
Give us Alabama and Ole Miss, because South Carolina doesn't need to be involved in this one because South Carolina would knock Clemson out just by beating them.
Ole Miss's strength of record is 19th. Their FPI is 6, which is 8 spots ahead of Clemson. Their strength of schedule is 27, which is 30 spots ahead of Clemson. In their game control, they're number 1.
Okay, and how about Alabama?
Okay, Alabama is number 11 in the strength of record, which is 7 and 6 spots ahead of Clemson and Ole Miss. They are number 4 in FPI. Their strength of schedule is 11, and their game control is 5. Like Clemson,
I'm telling you right now, if Clemson beats South Carolina, they're going to come up with a way to move Alabama or Ole Miss ahead of them. And Clemson people will rightfully go crazy. They'd be right.
Yeah. I don't understand Clemson's ranking to begin with. They have 0 quality wins, and their only losses were against the 2 best teams on their schedule. Like there's 0 merit for them. And that's what I think I'm going to be writing about after this.
Well, it makes sense. And the thing is, this is why people get mad at the committee, because we can spot this from a mile away. Like Clemson, if it beats South Carolina, is going to be like, wow, we're in now. Look at where we are. We just beat the number 15 team. And maybe even somebody loses ahead of them. They're like, we're in. And then they won't put them in.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I struggle with, and I've said it a million times, Andy, but I'm going to waterboard you with it again.
Okay.
So Clemson's resume, and help me, we're workshopping what I think I'm going to end up writing.
Yeah.
Clemson doesn't have a single bullet point on its resume at this point. Like the 2 best teams on its schedule this year are Louisville and Georgia, and they got destroyed by Georgia, and they lost to Louisville. Everybody else is
pretty badly to Louisville too.
Yeah.
Now,
but they have one fewer loss.
A South Carolina win is a good win. So remember,
I understand that, but they're ranked where
but I'm
they
just
are
saying,
already.
The argument we're going to have if Clemson is actually in the mix is because they beat South Carolina. So don't throw that out.
Yeah, and then we're getting neither does Indiana, but Indiana also only has lost once. Losing is part of your resume, guys. So what's more impressive? Clemson doing what it did against its schedule, losing by pretty hefty margins to the 2 good teams they've played, or
and one of them's not that good.
Alabama, who beat Georgia but also just got embarrassed on Saturday. Like I don't know which team I feel good about, because I don't think we are not a show. You don't feel good about either one because they have warts. Listen. Alabama doesn't have a wart. They have a cyst. That was disgusting. Like that's not a wart.
What do you call the Clemson Georgia game, Ari?
I call that, I don't know what's another word.
Because Alabama beat Georgia.
Medical school. Yeah. But it's one fewer is all I'm saying. A goiter.
There's your problem.
I don't want to live in a world where we forget about losses. That's all. Like they have one less loss, and that matters to me.
Does it?
But
what would Alabama's record be against Clemson's schedule? What would Ole Miss's record be against Clemson's schedule?
Yeah. So, like,
I mean, you could
Clemson
probably definitively say that they would have a better record against Clemson's schedule than Clemson.
Clemson's the most
Ole Miss
misranked.
actually beat. Oh wait. Ole Miss and Alabama also beat South Carolina.
Yeah, they're the most misranked team on the schedule or on this. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
And here's why I don't like it. Because they're gonna fix it either next week or the week after, and the week after is the one that counts. But they're gonna fix it, and it's gonna piss everybody off. And if they had just ranked them correctly this time, people wouldn't get mad at them next week when they fix it.
I just had to take a break to tweet. I'm going to tweet through it. You know, that's what I do. I tweet.
Okay.
Well, yeah, no, that's insane.
Put the YouTube address of the show in there, please.
The question is, what are they going to do with Clemson and that SEC cluster? Like, that's the number one remaining thing. Because I think we feel good about Indiana's going to be in. I don't know what we do with the loser of the ACC championship game if Clemson beats South Carolina.
That's how they're going to screw. Like, they're going to screw somebody. And they're either going to screw Clemson. Well, I don't know if it's even screwing Clemson. They've gotten Clemson's hopes up now. And they're going to pull the rug out from under them probably. But they also could maybe not pull the rug out from under Clemson, but pull the rug out from under the ACC runner-up.
So somebody just tweeted this, and I don't know who this human is, but it's interesting. If Clemson beats South Carolina, are we getting ready for a debate between Clemson and Indiana? Where Clemson has one extra loss, Indiana got blown out by Ohio State the same way that they did against.
Hadn't even thought about
top
that
15
one.
Win that Indiana doesn't have.
Had not even thought about that. It's possible.
Because Clemson's schedule stinks, but their strength of schedule, I believe, is higher than Indiana's. Let's go check that out.
I believe it is.
Indiana jumped into the 50s this week. Let's not forget.
Yeah, thank you, Ohio State.
Yeah. But that also
Clemson is at 57 on the. Oh, they're below Indiana on strength of schedule on ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, they're both buoyed by blowout losses. So, I mean, it's like their strength of schedule means nothing to me because they're bumped up by teams that blew them out. But Indiana finishing without a single quality win, and we know the committee cares about quality wins more than losses. Like, beating South Carolina might be a better bullet point than Indiana has left, but Indiana has one fewer loss. So what matters more to you, the extra win in the ACC or Indiana with one loss in the Big Ten?
I want the quality wins. I want to know you could actually compete if you get in the playoff. And what tells me you can compete in the playoff is if you've beaten a team that could be in the playoff. Which is why I would go with somebody who's actually beaten a team in the playoff, which is neither of those teams.
But who do you take between Clemson and Indiana? Who's your team? Who's your horse?
Yes, Indiana. I don't feel great about either one. But see, okay, this is part of it though. Everybody down here has problems. If they didn't have problems, they wouldn't be down here. That's the point.
We have to get ready to debate. Like, all these teams are afterthoughts last year. We were debating. We're debating like
22 teams capable of making the playoff. There are 22 teams capable of making the playoff. You did the list. Your list is right.
It didn't even occur to me, though, that Clemson could be an at-large till right now.
Well, guess what? We watched their TV show, and now we're going to watch their TV show next week.
Yeah. Electric. That's my word. That's electric.
So you watch our TV show. Well, you can put it on your TV. You can cast it to your TV. Tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll talk more about this. We've got our Wendy's sauciest takes of the week. We're also going to do James Franklin on Thanksgiving food. Speaking of electric, we're going to talk about Ari's Mac Brown column because Mac Brown got fired at the end of our show today. We have a lot to talk about, Ari. We will see all of you tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll sleep on this. We'll come up with even Saucy.